So, any questions, by the way, before we do that, about the stuff on the video or visual or body language? No? Pretty good? It kind of is a bit self-explanatory once you watch that video.
Yeah, I'm just curious, the guy's tie, I mean, is that a normal way to tie a tie in England? I mean, seriously, I'm not joking. No, seriously, I mean, he didn't have it all the way up, it wasn't a...
No, I wouldn't say that was normal at all.
Okay.
No. I guess he was maybe being a little trendy or something. Yeah. We can do some trivia along the way. Alright, so interview questions. Traditional interview questions typically tend to be open-based. And how about that first question that very often happens when you get to an interview? The very first question that's commonly asked is, tell me about yourself. And it can throw you off if you're not prepared for it. And when somebody asks you that question, tell me about yourself, they're really not asking for you to tell them about how many times you've been married and how many kids you've got. That isn't the information. They're asking for you to give a professional summary of your work experience, your career so far. So again, with the resume workshop that I do, you get to actually prepare for that question by working on your professional summary for your resume. But when it comes to your interview, you have to have that ready to roll off your tongue and with a confident smile. So again, it's back to practicing. It's what we are very often referred to as a 30-second elevator speech. Everybody know what a 30-second elevator speech is? It's really just you summing yourself up in a short, concise way. Not rambling on, but in a short, concise way. Summing up your history. And you have one of your handouts that I've given you is developing your 30-second elevator speech. So again, this is good stuff that you can refer to later to help you with that. And in fact, it can be, once you're in your interview, it can be longer than 30 seconds. It really can. And it can, in fact, if you feel it's appropriate, it can include some accomplishment statements. That's something, again, that you would have worked on with your dynamic resume. We cover that in that workshop. So, tell me about yourself. It's summing yourself up in that short, concise way. It's your first impression verbally to tell them about you. Again, don't assume that they've read your resume and that they should already know the answer to the question. Yeah? So this is your chance to do like a mini commercial for yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. So, why should I hire you? What is your greatest weakness? These are some typical questions that can get asked. And we're going to practice some of these pretty soon here with a mock interview practice. And you also have another handout that we'll be using for that. And this is the successful interviews handout that you've got. Here you've actually got 20 very common questions that might get asked at an interview. And you've actually got at the bottom there 4 suggestions for questions that you might ask them at the end of your interview. So that's another good handout that you have there that you can read more in detail later. This is really what it's about when you interview. You saying to them, I'm the right person for the job, I'm the right fit, hire me. People think that they're not salespeople, because I know for me, if that conjures up the idea of a used car salesman, I'm like, no, I'm not one of those people. But in reality, we're all salespeople. We really are. What did you do when you were dating? You were looking your best, sounding your best, when you went on a date, hoping that the person would want to go out with you again. So that's the same principle when you're doing your resume and when you're doing your interview. That you are looking your best, sounding your best, because you want them to hire you. So we are all salespeople, and this is your chance to sell yourself, first of all, in your resume to get you to the interview, but once you're in the interview, this is you in person saying, hire me. Not in a way of doing it like desperately, I need a job, please hire me. I don't mean that. I mean in the sense of you saying, I am the right fit, I'm the person you're looking for. Does that make sense? And be prepared. How would somebody answer me if I said to you, what is your greatest weakness? How would you respond to that question? Thank you.
I would say my greatest weakness is I sometimes get too deep into details, and I need to remain focused, and I'm working on that right now. In fact, I have a group of accountability partners that are really helping me stay on track.
Okay. So for the sake of the tape, you're saying that your greatest weakness is paying too much attention to detail, and that it's something you're working on, and that you have some accountability partners to help you with that. I think that's a pretty good answer. What I would say, though, that might be a little bit better answer, if I may, would be to say, because I always do say, take whatever a negative is and turn it to a positive. So everybody does have weaknesses. So for you to say to that question, oh, I don't have any, well, that would be a lie. And we don't want to do that, because we're going to come across as being phony, right? So you're going to be honest, but at the same time, you don't really want to be highlighting your weaknesses. The whole point is you want to highlight your strengths. So think of something that perhaps used to be a weakness, but now it's not. And again, similar to how you answered it, but to say, you know what? And you can take a moment to kind of think, like look like, you know, you're being stretched to think of something. And it's like, well, you know, I actually did used to have a problem with this particular thing. But when I recognized it to be a problem, I worked on it, and you know what? It's actually now one of my greatest strengths. So again, it's like that marketing yourself. It's turning it around to being. And what are you showing them at the same time? You're showing them that you are aware of your own behaviors, and that you do look at yourself, and you are into growth and open to other people, you know, perhaps helping you with that. So it is very similar to your answer, but just maybe taking it a little step further. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, you're welcome. So that's the type of thing I'm talking about. But remember, when you get your interview, you're also going to be reading the people in the room and getting a kind of feel for the type of people. Another response that, you know, may work for some people in some situations would be to maybe kind of make a joke. Sometimes that can help, depending on the people in the room. You can break the ice, and you could maybe say, oh heck, you mean chocolate? You know, that's my greatest weakness. And then, you know, maybe they laugh, and then you say, well, you know, of course everybody has weaknesses, so seriously, this is, you know, what I have. And then go to that story. So you have, again, options. You know, sometimes I've seen with people jobs posts that they put out there, if they're specifically saying in their job post that they're looking for somebody who's fun, they're looking for somebody, you know, in a work environment, and they're describing their work environment as being a fun, relaxed, that type of thing, then it might be appropriate, you know, to say something like that, because you're showing that you do have a sense of humour. But it's like it's a judgment call, because for some instances that would not be the right thing to do. Yeah? So for some of it, you're just going to have to play it by ear, and hopefully, you know, read their body language, not just be conscious of your own. Behavioural. These are a lot of the questions that they're going to focus on when it comes down to the decision. You know, they've already decided that you can do the job, but now they want to know if you're the right fit, and they're looking to kind of catch you up, trip you up maybe even, in letting them know what your weaknesses are or what your failings are. So be ready for these questions. And again, this principle is taught in the Dynamic Resume Workshop. The CAR, Challenge, Action, Result. Be ready to have stories to tell, examples. But everybody loves stories. They're the things that people remember the most, but you need to keep the stories short. Long stories, people switch off, they're not listening anymore. And you don't have time. So you need to have it short and concise. And so it's story-driven. When you had a problem, what you did about it, what was the result. So similar principle that we just did with the weakness, it's having examples. Tell me about a time when. Give me an example of. Describe a situation in which. And when they ask this type of question, you need to have that example. Not just give the vague kind of answer of, you know, in those types of situations, this would be what I do. You need to have that story, that example. When this happened with this person, but again, be very careful. You're not going to be knocking anybody, and don't be giving names of companies or names of people. I had a situation where this misunderstanding happened. I recognized it was a misunderstanding, and so this was what I did about it, and now everything's perfectly fine in that relationship with that person. So again, showing that you're a problem solver, and because maybe what they're looking for is, are you the kind of person who can find their own solutions to problems, or are you the kind of person who's going to run to the boss every time to find the answers for them? Does that make sense? So again, they're trying to find out, they're trying to get to know you with these questions. So responding effectively, being honest, developing the answer in your head. If you don't understand a question, ask for clarification. That's much, much better than you assuming something and not answering it correctly, right? Remember your strengths and your skills and use examples. So again, see these questions as opportunities for you to show off your skills and how good you are. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? No? You're okay? So, the tell me about yourself question. Remember, goals, concise story of your achievements, highlight specific experiences, be passionate. Who am I as a person? Capture their interest, maximum of 2 minutes. See that? Putting passion into it? That's going to get you a long way. Showing that you really care and that you are passionate and it's something that you love to do. Yeah? Developing the professional story. The early years, how did you get started? Discuss your education, work history and recent career experience. Build the evolution of how you got to where you're at. Emphasize your interest and passions. The only thing that to be careful with in these things is not, if you're classed as the older, more experienced worker, and by government standards, anybody over 40 is in that category, then you also need to be sensitive of how far back you go and any age-related things that you might not want to use. And again, you know, that's important with your resume as well as with your interview. So bear that in mind when you're answering those questions as well. You don't want to be giving away your age if you're in the older worker category. So pitfalls. Not being professional. You need to be professional. Look it, sound it. Do not overstep your boundaries. well, you saw good examples of that in the video, right? It was a little extreme, I know, but it gets the point across. Do not go through your resume. So again, you're not going to have it in front of you and be just reading off your resume to answer their questions. Because what is that saying? It's not really you, because somebody else could have written your resume for you. They don't know if you wrote it yourself or not, right? Don't ramble or overshare, and don't forget to smile. Any questions on that? Yes?
Isn't that people's age can be gasped on the resume?
It depends, and that would be covered in our resume workshop, more so, to cover that. The ways that we get around that your age doesn't show if it is a concern. You know, like I said, the main thing of a resume is to get you to the interview. And as far as age is concerned, by the way, we also have another workshop over at the Tri-Valley One Stop, which is the issues of the older worker. And we address all of those issues. But specifically in the resume, that would be covered in the resume workshop. Because remember, you can do things about the way you look to make yourself look younger. You know, maybe some people need to lose a little bit of weight so they can wear some trendier clothes to look younger. Dye your hair. Those types of things you can do. But most of it's up here. It's in your mindset, how you see yourself. And so all of those issues would be addressed in that older worker workshop. So that's a good one to go to. I always promise people they come out of it feeling younger. So that's a good reason to go. Okay, sample answers. Let's do some of these. Tell me about a challenge you had at your last job. And so again, you need to have these ready, these stories to tell ready. So, whoops. The challenge was my department wasn't able to handle all the incoming calls. Action taken. I researched the new phone systems and then counted the calls after changing to the new system. The result? Increased capacity by incoming calls by 25% hourly. Our department went from answering 100 to 125 incoming calls per hour. So, you look at what the challenge was, the action you took, and the result. Then you turn it into what's called the accomplishment statement. That's where it begins. And again, that gets covered in the resume workshop that we do. But this is when you get to your interview, this is the story that you have. They're asking you a specific question. Tell me about a challenge you had. Here's your answer. And you've already got it because you worked on it for your resume. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's another common question. You just got asked that one yesterday at your interview, didn't you? Yeah. What are they looking for, do you think, when they're asking that question? Commitment. Anything else?
They want to see if you just want to stay in that particular position or if you want to move up in the company, because depending on what their needs are and how they're thinking about it, it's a double whammy. You could say, oh, I want to be growing, but they want the same person to be role for the next 5 years. So it's kind of a tricky question.
Yes, it's also not just are you committed to the company, but are you looking to advance in the company, or are you looking to stay in the position that you start out at? And so again, your research about the company and about the position, you would want to know that ahead of time. Because if they're looking for somebody who's going to stay in that position, then you need to come across in the interview, if you want the job, like you're happy to stay in that position. But if they're looking for somebody, because I know you said that about the job interview you had yesterday, that it wasn't one where you would advance. So it was a case of, well, okay, then play down any desire for that, if you want that job. I also talked to another client, and she just turned down a job that she interviewed for, that she was offered, one of my clients, because they were looking for her to do a specific other job. It was like a training for another job, and that wasn't what she wanted. So again, it's knowing, what's the right fit and how to answer those questions. So here's a suggestion that for some people, if this is the right answer for you. So here's a suggestion of how you might want to answer that question. I'm interested in making a long-term commitment to my new opportunity. Judging by what I've learned about this position, it's exactly what I'm looking for and what I'm very well qualified to do. In terms of my future career path, I'm confident that if I do my work with excellence, opportunities will inevitably open up for me. It's always been that way in my career, and I'm confident I'll have similar opportunities here. So again, it's a confident answer, letting them know that, in the past, maybe you starting out at a position that's perhaps a lower level than what you've had in the past. But you know that if you start out there, they'll very quickly recognize you as being somebody who can do more and get promoted. And you're showing the confidence that you are that person. So again, it's about the research and what is the appropriate way to answer it if you want the job. Does that make sense? So, preparing for the interview questions. Tell me how you handled a challenging situation. These are the open-ended questions. These are the can be what are considered to be the trick questions. So, what was the most challenging? They're looking for what have you learned. If they ask you what was the most interesting, why was it the most interesting? They're trying to get to know you as a person, your likes, your dislikes. They're trying to find out if you're the right fit for the job and for the company. Enjoyed the most. Why? Let them hear and see the passion that you have. Made a mistake. Again, okay, we all make mistakes, so don't be in denial. Pretend you're, something you're not, or because they'll know you're not being honest. So it's okay to acknowledge, but what did you do about it? Did you resolve it? That's what they're looking for. And were you able to resolve it by yourself, or did you have to go running to your supervisor? Yeah? Goals achieved. Use accomplishment statements. Persuaded a group. Again, you'd be showing off your skills. Maybe the type of position that you're applying for is where you need to have some persuasive powers, to get people to be on your team. Maybe it's a team leadership role, and this is a chance for you to show off your skills of how you are a team leader, to lead other people. And that's a good thing to know when you're applying for the job as well. If you are applying for a job that's a team leader position, then obviously emphasize those skills that you have. But if it's being part of a team and you're not the leader, then you might want to downplay that and then emphasize your skills as a team player. Because otherwise the person who's interviewing you might be worried that you're after their job, right? So again, it's all about, reading the people and how to respond. Conflicts with team members, customers, employers. How did you resolve the situation? This is a very common type of question that you might get asked. Tell me of a time when you had a conflict. They want to know, how do you handle conflict? They're looking to see, how do you work under pressure? Those are the hidden things that they're looking for. So have, again, those stories ready to tell. Yes?
The trouble I have with behavioral interviews is,
Yes.
it's almost like you need to know what they're going to be to prepare. And I'm always worried that I'll go to an interview and there'll be this one question that I didn't even think they would ask me. Because, if you think of all of these, it's almost like you have to have something canned. I don't know if I'm the only one who's...
No, I don't think you're the only one. Okay. You are never going to be probably 100% prepared to know exactly every single question you're going to get asked. So that's why you prepare working on your resume initially, prepare your interview skills, do mock interviews, gather all of that preparation that you can. And then you'll be confident enough to be able to handle a question that perhaps you hadn't come across before. Some of the other resources, by the way, that we have at the Tri-Valley One Stop is we have a document that I give to my clients. I gave it to you, didn't I? Which is the 60 most common interview questions and the suggested way to answer them. So again, lots of valuable resources that we have for our clients over there, and all that stuff's free. We don't charge for it. You just need to come and enroll. Yeah.
So out of these questions, I had 2 yesterday. Tell me about yourself and where do you want to be in 5 years?
So you're saying that in your actual interview, live interview, a real one, after we did your mock interview, you got asked, tell me about yourself and where you want to be in 5 years. Yeah, they are two very common ones. Yeah.
And also, tell me what you know about my company.
Tell me what you know about my company. Yeah, you see, they're looking to see, have you done your research? You know, are you a resourceful person? That's what they're looking for. Anybody can lie on their resume, and they know that. So they're looking to see, are you really that person? They're obviously interested in you because they've invited you to an interview, but now they want to know, is it true what you've said about yourself? So that's really what they're looking to find out with that interview. So thank you for your input there. I had one client who mock interviewed, and I had a co-worker do it with me, so it gave that kind of panel interview feel. And he had 4 of the questions that I'd asked in the mock interview, he got asked in his real interview. And then he was prepared, which he wouldn't have been before. Yes, you were. Yeah, but he wouldn't have been prepared. And he did get the job. He did get the job.
Oh, and Sheila, I just have a comment.
Yes, Paul.
I think with practice teaches you how to improvise and how to, it's like those comedians who get suggestions from the audience and then they would just know how to act naturally.
Yes.
I think that's what, so if you come across something a question that you're not expecting, you can improvise.
Improvise, yes. Can you do that? Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So, for instance, like, what did you, a challenge from, let's say, your most recent job?
Mm-hmm.
If what pops up in my mind is something that happened 2 jobs ago, it should be okay to put it in.
It depends what it was.
Yeah.
As long as it's something that you can turn from being a negative to a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, if you have time ahead of time to think about this, then you can maybe write down several stories and then see which one feels the most appropriate to share when it comes time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So after the interview, ask people for their business cards. If you've got a panel interview, it's going to be hard to remember all the names of the people. So that's a good way to do that. If you can't get the names of the people, hopefully you made friends with the receptionist on the way in. And please remember that as well, when you go for an interview, and, perhaps there's a receptionist or somebody that you meet, or whoever it is who meets and greets you and takes you through to the interview room or whatever. Or maybe while you're sitting in the lobby area for those 10 minutes, because you arrive 10 minutes early. Sometimes they're watching for your behavior. How do you treat that person? Are you rude and talk down to the little people? And only kind of nice to the people that you think that you need to impress. That speaks a lot about you as a person as well. So some of those things can be a test. They could very well go to the receptionist later and ask, how did that person treat you? What were they doing while they were waiting in the lobby for 10 minutes? So all of those things matter, they really do. And you may need the help of that receptionist or whoever it is later to be able to get some perhaps missing information if you're not able to gather business cards or names at the end of the interview. In England we have a saying, always be nice to the people on the way up because you might meet them on the way down. So just a reminder to be nice. Receptionists are amazing gateways to the company. They're the gatekeepers. They really are. And there's so much that they know. I've had clients, because I've shared these stories in workshops that I do there, and I had a client come back and say to me, you know, you were totally right. I went and chatted and made friends with the receptionist and asking her, trying to find out who I needed to send my resume to get an interview. And because they clicked and got along so well, not only did she give her the name, she actually set her up with an interview with the person. So it really can work for you. And they're trying to find out, you know, are you the right fit? Are you going to get along with everyone? Because it's important that you get along with everyone when you work somewhere. So thank you cards, or an email. And again, this can be a judgment call. Do you want to do that handwritten thank you card that makes you stand out from other people? Or just do the email, which is more of a common way that most people would do it. So it's deciding which is the most appropriate. I actually had another client a couple of weeks ago, and she came for advice about an interview that she was doing. And in her instance, we actually decided that the best way, because it was more of a kind of artistic type of position that she was involved in, the company, you know, we're into computer graphics and different things like that. So what she ended up doing was a computer graphic thank you. You know, there's plenty of that stuff around that you can get on the computers. Because again, it was the most appropriate in her case to do it that way. So it's a judgment call. The hand card written ones are nice because, like I said, it's personalised. So what do you feel is most appropriate? Follow up accordingly. You're always going to want to ask, you know, what is the next step in the hiring process? So as you get an idea of when, usually they'll let you know, oh, we've still got more interviews to do, or, oh, we'll be making a decision by next week and we'll get back to you, that type of thing. So that's good to know. And then if you don't hear anything, then take the initiative to do the follow-up yourself, right? And if you have that one-page list of references available should they ask for it, then that's something you want to, ahead of time, have spoken to those people so that they know, give them the heads up. I've given out your name as a reference, and so expect a call from. Let them know that you had an interview. Because you don't want them to be calling that person for a reference and not being able to get a response, right? That's not going to look good. Yeah? So any questions on the follow-up stuff for an interview? Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave this up here. This is the contact information. I did have a few business cards back there as well. But what we're going to move into now, and we need to do that pretty quickly, I'm looking at the clock now, is the mock interview session with you. So everybody got, this is the one that you need, the suggested questions there. What I would like to do is to split people up into, how many people do we have?